All right, in lesson 98, we're going to get into the difference between a relationship and a function, or a relation and a function. Specifically, we'll talk more about functions, but a function is defined as this. For every input of a function, there is exactly one output. For every input, there's exactly one output. If an input has more than one output, it's not a function. And we just call that a relation. So for every input, there's got to be exactly one output. Now, one way we've got to tell whether a relationship is a function is by using something called the vertical line test. Okay, so we're looking at these graphs, and we're going to determine whether or not this is a function by using the vertical line test. Here's what the vertical line test looks like. If I run a vertical line through this graph anywhere, you'll notice that the vertical line only crosses the graph once at any one of these given vertical lines, which means that this is a function. Because what we're basically determining is that for every one input, there's exactly one output. When you put in x is 5, you get y is 2. When you put in x is 2, you get y is -1. I'm just making up those numbers, but for every input, there's exactly one output. Now over here on example B, we see that a vertical line will pass through this graph more than once on some occasions. That means it's not a function. Because some inputs have two outputs. Okay, when I input this value of x right here, I get two different y values, which makes it not a function. So that's the vertical line test. Real easy way to tell if something's a function or not given a graph. Now, if we're not given a graph, we're just given a table of values, we can also determine if something is a function, okay? And again, the definition still holds true. For every input, there can be only exactly one output. So every time I input 3, I should get 5, apparently. However, the second time I inputted 3, I get an output of 9. That right there alone is enough to determine that this is not a function. However, I also noticed here with the 2, input 2 I got 6, input 2 I got 8. Every time I put in 2, I should get the same number back out, but I'm not. So as far as I can tell, this is not a function because some inputs have more than one output. Some inputs have two outputs. What about here on example D? Every time I put in 2, I've got to get 5. Do you see? If I see another 2 down here, it better be 5, but I don't even see 2 being put in. So every time I put in 2, I get a 5. Every time I put in a 3, do I get 4 out? Yes. Every time I put in a 4, do I get 5 out? Yes. This is a function. Each input, 2, 3, and 4, have one output. It's a function. Every input has one output. Now, one thing people might notice is that 2 and 4 have the same output. There's no rule against that. Okay, 2 inputs can have the same output, but each input has to have the same output every time. Every time I put in 2, I got to get a 5. Every time I put in 3, I got to get a 4. Every time I put in 4, I've got to get a 5. But it does not matter that 2 and 4 have the same outputs. That does not matter. This is a function. Okay, that's all I got for you today, and 5 minutes.